and today we are looking at the back line of the body. So we're going to start looking at the upper part of the body, from the middle of your shoulder blades upwards, and then work our way down the back line of the body, including some stretches and some strengthening exercises. So without further ado, let's get going. So just thinking about standing up, really nice tall posture, and let's take our shoulders forwards, up, squeeze them back and draw them down. If I just turn to the side, you're going to take the shoulders all the way forward, so we're making a big square, up to the top, squeeze them back and draw them down. Normally I take a great big circle, but today we are focusing on a big square to start with. And then once you've done a couple of those, start to smooth out the circle. Try not to join in with your arms, your elbows, but just taking that whole shoulder girdle, that shoulder socket if you like, all the way around, up and down and back as much as you can. Brilliant, and then we're opening the arms out to the side, turning the palms up, and you're going to cross your arms in front and just cross them over at the wrist, and then open them out to the side, keeping the palms up, and just pin them back a little bit more than the side of your body, I guess. So open them out, allow maybe your rib cage to shift forwards and backwards a little bit. I'm allowing my weight to pitch forwards and backwards slightly, not too much. Keeping the palms up, and we're getting a nice stretch at the front of the chest, and each time you bring your arms forwards, take a different hand on top, so that we're just changing that up a little bit. And actually I'm pitching forwards and backwards quite a bit, but that's absolutely fine. Excellent, great. So we're taking hold of one thumb. So bring that hand out in front of you, take hold of the thumb, straighten the arms out in front of you, so we're here, and pull on that thumb. Pull on the thumb as if you're trying to pull it off sideways. And notice whether you feel any activation. So for me, as soon as I start to pull that thumb and straighten my arms out, I feel my shoulder blades dropping down and sort of engaging, almost going into gear. And then from there, I'm going to take both arms up to the ceiling, still pulling on that thumb, and then open out the arms and draw the elbows into your sides like a capital W, pausing in this position. And then we're swapping hands. So take hold of the thumb, stretch the arms forwards, pull. So engage, switch everything on. You can just see my shoulders dropping down a little bit. And then, so make sure you put those shoulder blades into gear before you lift the arms up, and then open out and have that sense of not squeezing the shoulder blades together, but being nice and broad across the collarbone as you bring those arms in. Let's take 4 more of those. So stretching the arms forwards, drawing the shoulders down, lifting up nice and tall through the body, and then bringing the elbows into your side seam. And changing sides, taking hold of the thumb. Remember to pull the thumb to the opposite side as well. Lifting up, keeping those shoulders down, drawing the elbows in. 2 more. Stretching forwards, draw the shoulders down, lifting up. Noticing whether there's any change in your head position. Maybe. Try not to poke the head position, try not to poke the head forwards. Try and keep those arms fairly straight. I think that was the last one of 4. Fantastic. Okay, we're taking the hands behind the head. But before we do that, let's interlace the fingers. And again, try and pull the elbows apart. Try and pull the hands apart. And again, feel that the shoulder blades drawing down. So they're nice and flat against the rib cage wall at the back. And then we're going to take the hands behind our head, around the bulky part of your skull, so not too low, not in the nape of your neck, around the bit that sticks out the most. Bring those elbows forwards and apply a little bit of pressure into your hands with your head. Thinking about this top corner at the back of your head, pushing back. So one of our 10 things to do every day. And hopefully you're quite used to this movement now if you've been doing this movement for a little while, and you should be able to quite happily walk around a little bit, having that lovely sense of lifting the crown of the head up towards the ceiling, sending the tailbone down at the same time as you're pushing the head into the hands. And basically we're trying to build the stamina around here. And then facing forwards with your feet nice and parallel, maybe shoulder width apart, we're just going to transfer the weight from side to side. And if you can see yourself in your screen or on your monitor, maybe on your camera, you're checking for your tissue box of your shoulders and your hips to stay absolutely level. And the whole time we're pushing the head into the hands. Let's go over to one side, slide the leg in. So there's no change. So first of all, you should have unweighted this foot that's at the side, slide it in, and now lift up. So the knee is opposite your hip and the foot is nice and pointed. The big toe is touching your underneath leg, which is nice and straight. And then we're sliding down and sliding along, and then transferring the weight through the middle and then over to the other side. Watch that you haven't left your hips behind. Watch that you haven't done a leaning Tower of Pisa there. So really square with that torso. Draw the leg in. If you're worried about your balance and you don't want to lift that knee up quite so high, I'm just toppling over myself there, just finish with the big toenail on the floor. But if you can, try and lift up all the way and then slide back down, slide the leg out, no weight on it, then transfer. Let's add on, transfer to the other side. Look at the bottom of your top, if you've got a contrasting top on, if you can see that. Lifting up. Now open that knee out to the side, using your turnout muscles, and then bring it back to parallel, slide down, and again that can be done here, just opening the knee out, bringing the thigh back, slide out, transfer the weight over to the other side, and we're drawing in, we're lifting up, we're rotating out. Just that knee, that thigh, that leg is rotating in the hip socket. Nothing else is changing. Slide down, slide away, go through the middle, just noticing that my feet have gone a little bit wonky there, so I've got them back on track level with each other. And then we're coming in and up with that knee, parallel, watching that you don't shorten on that side on the waist, testing on the balance, and then open the knee out, bring it back in. This time your elbows are forwards. I'm going to turn slightly to the side. I want you to just take a very subtle oblique twist to the corner. This elbow is reaching, the opposite elbow to that forwards knee, it's reaching forwards, and I'm just twisting round to the corner, over to that direction, 15 degrees, but everything else is staying still. I'm coming back to the centre, I'm lowering that leg, I'm sliding out to the other side, transferring over, all of that on the other side. Draw the leg in, slide in and up. The whole time pushing the head into the hands, opening out that knee, no change, bringing it back in. Now take your rotation, your oblique twist, pull with that opposite elbow. Allow your head to rotate to the corner. Don't open this back arm up too much. Pretty much everything is staying in the same position. We're there, back nice and square, leg out to the side. We've got one more set each side, over to the side. Draw the leg in, lifting up, rotating that thigh in the hip socket, bringing it back to square. Take your slight twist, pull that elbow forwards, reaching, coming back to square. Perfect. Slide the leg down, slide it away now, and now lift. Again, no change whatsoever. Then transfer through to the middle. Last side, here we go. Into the legs together. Draw the knee up. Turn the leg out. Come back to parallel. Now just move those ribs. Rotate around your rib cage, those lower ribs. Lead with that elbow going forward. You're only going as far as to the corner with your shoulders. Slide down, slide along, no weight on it. Lift it, hold it, hold it, we're there. You're totally upright in your spine, you're lengthening that spine all the way through. My triceps are starting to hurt a little bit actually, which is good news. Back to the centre, relax, whew. Give them a little bit of a shake, great. So if triceps were hurting, good job. It means you kept that pressure, pushing the head into the hands. Okay, wonderful. We are taking our arms up to the ceiling. We're going to make 4 shapes with our arms. So the first shape is going to be a nice capital Y. I'm going to come back a little bit more. So feet parallel, lengthening the spine, coming into a capital Y. If I go sideways from here, so at the moment my hands are just in my periphery vision. If I turn my eyes, I can see my hands. I want you to try and see if you can pin those arms back a little bit, but without poking the head forwards. And we're going to repeat these movements on the floor. So then drawing the elbows in. So you're bringing your elbows into your side seam, keeping the hands quite high. So this is your capital W. We've already done this movement once. So arms are really truly at the side. So with my black top you can't see my arms at all, which is great. No elbows sticking out behind you that way. I'm almost trying to push them forwards. Then we're stretching the arms out to the side. Relatively comfortable, hopefully. And again, when we start, those arms are out to the side. Now try and pin them back. Keep the hands just below your shoulders, just slightly below your shoulders. So not down here, keep them up quite high if you can. And pinning them back, lengthening that arm, getting a wonderful stretch across the chest. Perfect. Last one, bring the arms back to sideways on, and then tuck the elbows into your side seam of your top, but this time don't have the hands up here, have the hands nice and low. So capital L's, back to back. I struggle to get my elbows to touch the side seam of my torso, but if you can, that's where I'd like you to be. And I also struggle to fully rotate here. It will all depend on the amount of rotation in your shoulders. So just work with what you've got. So this is your double capital L or capital L's back to back. We're trying to push those elbows forwards, trying not to flip at the wrist. Keep the hands nice and straight, the wrist nice and straight in line with the rest of your forearm. You should be feeling some work across the shoulders and around those shoulder blades in the back, and then give that a little bit of a break. Perfect. So that was our Y, W, T and L. Excellent. I've done one thing in a different order, but that's absolutely fine. Great. We're going into our mini hip hinge. And I'm just going to go slightly on a diagonal. So feet are hip width apart. So thinking about the back line of the body. So sometimes we're thinking about the shape, sometimes we're thinking about the muscles in the back of the body. So we've just looked a lot at the muscles in the upper back. Let's now look, if I go completely sideways, at the shape of the back line of your body. So from the crown of the head, you've got all your natural curves in place, including the lower back curve and the cervical curve. Keep those all in place. Imagine there's a piece of string and it's just following the shape of those curves. And when you send your bottom back for your mini hip hinge, nothing changes. So maybe stick your fingertips into the tops of your thighs. That's the point where the change happens. You send your bottom back and you come upright. The spine stays long. The spine stays in its same shape, but it stays long. The test here is that when you're back into that mini hip hinge, you can tap the whole of the front of your feet relatively easily, so the weight's back in the heels. The knees slightly soften, and this shouldn't feel uncomfortable. And then we're coming up. We're going to take that movement on into a narrow squat. So staying nice and narrow. So we're sending the hips back, then we're bending the knees. Keeping the weight on the heels. I can't quite lift the front of my feet up. My weight's definitely on my heels. I've brought my arms forward as a counterbalance. I'm keeping the back of the head and neck nice and long, and then standing. If I go sideways again, so sending the bottom back, the angle of my spine shouldn't be too much different to just the mini hip hinge. The only difference is I've bent my knees and my ankles. That's the bit that's changed. We've increased the hinge, I guess, we've increased the compression in the top of that, in that hinging at the front of your hip, and we're there. Nice and balanced, making sure that the knees are above the ankles. Hopefully this is all feeling good for you. If you've got good technique, if you've been practicing with this stuff for a little while, it should feel okay. But if you wanted to just stick with this rather than the next exercise, absolutely fine. You might find that you're feeling a little bit tight in the lower back, or just feeling a little bit like you're working in the lower back. So if you've haven't got much stamina there, then maybe that will be an issue for you. So maybe just try and hold it, making sure that you're keeping your belly button pulled in nice and tight, supporting that lower back. But the whole idea is to keep the shape of the spine all the way through. So from here, we're going into running man. Yippee, I hear some of you say. I'm going to turn to the side. So the difference is now that we have got our feet together, completely together, and I'm going to turn completely to the side. I'm going to start on my weaker leg for my running man work. Weaker leg for the standing, one leg stand work. So the weaker leg for the buttock, the side at the back, which is the back line of the body, which is what we're trying to work on. You come down into your nice deep squat. In fact, before we do that, sorry everyone, let's stand up. Let's just have the feet comfortable. In fact, I'm going to go this way for this one. Bend your arms and come into this sort of like a 90 degrees, the soft fist, 90 degrees with both arms. When we're doing the running man, I want you to do this with your arms. So basically I'm thinking of bringing my elbows back, and the arm is moving, pivoting from the shoulder, but the shape of my arm doesn't change. So it's not that, I'm not straightening the arm out, get my other hand out of the way so not to confuse things. It's not that, it's not that, it's not just bending the arm, straightening, it's staying in this fixed position, this 90 degrees, bringing the elbow back and forwards, and then both sides. That's our running man. So we're nice and efficient with the upper body movements. It's not changing what we're doing. Okay, so I'm going to add that on. So feet and knees together. Coming down into the deepest part of your narrow squat. So the angle of the back is exactly the same as we just did. Deciding which leg you're going to stay on the floor. The other one stretches out behind you. And that same side arm comes forwards. The opposite elbow pulls back. And then we're tapping and tapping. Tapping and tapping. The arms change each time, and hopefully you can see that there's no change in my body, in the shape of my spine, in the position of my leg, my standing leg, that's the important one. So the only parts that are moving are both arms, thinking of pinning those elbows back, and that one leg. From the front, stay there if you can. This standing leg should be in really good alignment. There's no change to my shoulders. This knee is over between my big toe and my second toe. There's no rolling in and rolling out of that knee. Good job. Stay with it if you can. This is tough. And then if you want to make it a little bit harder, keep that foot off of the floor, keep the foot flexed, and do the same thing. Draw it in and stretch it out behind you. So keeping the shape, and I'm starting to lose it now, keeping the shape of your lower back, especially if you've added this one on. Keep those arms nice and short. Whew. 5 more when you don't think you can do any more. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Hiya. Oh. Hopefully, oh dear, that was quite a tough one. Hopefully you felt that in the buttock on the standing leg, maybe. If you did, excellent. You might have felt it somewhere else in the leg, but this is what we're primarily aiming for. If you're feeling it in the thighs and the fronts of the thighs, maybe those knees are a little bit too far forwards. So really make sure you send that bottom back. Okay, here we go. On the other side, I'm going to stay completely sideways again. Feet and knees together so that your base is nice and narrow. Send your bottom back. Try and keep those knees, even for me, even with my rubbish Achilles, if my knees are there over my toes, I'm cheating a little bit, my heels are slightly off, but that's going to feel very different. That's going to feel much more in my quads than my buttocks, my glutes. So I'm sending that bottom back, bending those arms, keeping them nice and bent, change to the other leg, extend it out behind you, use the wall if you're about to fall off the balance. Keep those arms nice and short and bent. Bring the same side arm as the leg that's out behind you, and then you switch and switch, switch and switch. Think of the elbow going back, think of the shoulders moving, that lower back is staying in the same shape. Your shoulders, you're nice and broad across your shoulders. Tucking your chin in, keeping the back of the neck long. None of this going on. Don't let that head drop down either. I'm going to turn to face forwards. Partly so that I can see what's going on. Yes, a little bit hard on this side, probably because I'm tired. But this knee wants to roll in a little bit. Oh, I'm finding it harder to balance on this side as well. Good, but my shoulders now, I've got it. Now my shoulders are staying nice and level. Really starting to get tired now. I'm going to make it a little bit harder. Join me if you want to. The leg goes back, the foot stays flexed, so that as you straighten out that leg behind you, it's nice and strong. Oh, this is tough. I'm using the wall much more on this side. Losing it. I'm going to do 5 more. Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Whoa, okay. Whew. I almost pushed that a tiny bit too far. I started to really lose my balance and started to lose the quality of the movement. So that's when you know it's time to stop. Hopefully you managed to work the backs of the back line of your body in your buttocks with that exercise. Great, okay. So now we're looking further down the backs of the legs, the hamstrings. Two different types of stretches. So a little bit out of breath off that last one. So let's go feet nice and wide. I'm going to stay on this corner. Let's explore stretching our hamstrings with the weight in 2 different positions and just see how it feels for you. So let's start with our regular wide leg hip hinge. So exactly the same as we just did. Hinging at the hip, maybe stick your little fingers in that crease again, keeping your back absolutely in its natural curves. Not going too low, but finding your personal biting point for the stretch on the hamstrings. So if I go completely to the side, I'm pretty much parallel to the floor. I could go a little bit more, but to be honest, I don't really need to. If I want to get more out of the stretch, I will do 2 things. I will pitch my weight more forwards onto the balls of the feet so that I can tap my heels, and/or I will lift my chest slightly so that I'm making sure I'm really open in the front of the chest and the shoulders, and just tilt my pelvis a tiny, tiny bit. Maybe pop those hands on the shoulders. So, sorry, I should have said as well, if this is your first class since last week, then just come up and go back into it a couple of times. Find your biting point, warm it up, so the legs are nice and straight. The weight is forwards on the balls of the feet. And I'm getting a good stretch in the bulk of my hamstrings, in the middle of the back of the thigh. Yeah, that's where I'm feeling that. So just do a few of those. Then let's have a look at a different way of doing that. So that one, we pitch the weight forwards, and pretty much you keep your hips over and above your feet, or over and above your insteps anyway. And then the weight is forwards on the balls of the feet. Now try this. So this is a very different way of stretching the hamstrings, where we're going to send the bottom back, and take the weight into the heels much more. So the legs are nice and straight. So you're taking that hip hinge and you're just slightly push your heels out a little bit so that you're slightly pigeon toes. This is a foundation training way of stretching the hamstrings. It's called the founder. The wider your legs are, the harder it is. Push the heels out slightly so that you're rotating the legs inwards. Send the bottom back. So look at where my hips are now in relation to my insteps. I've sent them all the way back. And then maybe reach the arms forwards. But don't let this happen. Don't let those shoulders lift up. Just reach the arms forwards in a counterbalance. Maybe let's have the palms, turn those palms up towards the ceiling. Keep the chin tucked in, keep the spine. Again, the spine is in its same shape. Same shape when you're standing, same shape when you pitch forwards into this position. So for me, the stretch of my hamstrings is much higher up at the top. This is harder work. I'm anchoring my legs, I'm sliding my legs in towards both feet in towards each other a little bit, just engaging with those inside thighs, your adductors, and then coming up. So just noticing for yourself which of those suits you. They should both be quite a strong hamstring stretch. Stretching the backs of the legs, thinking about the back line of the body as we're doing in class today. The length of your hamstrings is really important because it will affect the quality of your movement, your range of movement with all the things that you're doing. Wonderful. Okay, we're now going to look at some roll downs. And if you can, find yourself a wall or a door that you can practice this exercise on. It's a little bit difficult for me to show this, but I'm going to stay where I am. This is partly why I've worn this top today, so that it's easy for you to see what I'm going on about. So imagine my spine is up against a wall here. So actually, if I face you this way first of all, so if you can find a wall or something, you're just going to put your spine against the wall. You're going to lean back against the wall. So feet are pretty much hip width apart, and my heels are about 6 inches away from the base of the wall. And I'm just resting back fairly comfortably, and you may or may not get your head back to the wall. That's absolutely fine. But I've got my butt, my hips resting on the wall, I've got my shoulders resting on the wall, and my head is in place. So essentially, I can't really do it freestanding, but I'm leaning back slightly, but my spine is upright. It's in these natural curves. When I'm against the wall, I can then get my hand in my lower back because my lumbar curve is quite big. So I can get my hand there and it all feels quite comfortable, and I can notice that there's that gap between by the nape of the neck. So imagine I'm leaning back against the wall. We're going to take the first half of a roll down. So you take your chin onto your chest, and I want you to keep your pelvis nice and switched on and neutral. And you allow your arms to hang, and you just start to roll down, and you'll probably get to about here. And where you can feel your hips and your trousers, your leggings against the wall, if you start to go any further from here, you'll start to feel this part sliding up the wall, or it'll be changing. So I don't want you to go that far. I just want you to go chin onto the chest, resist by pulling the ribs back, let the arms hang. So, and just hanging here. This hasn't changed. I'm in contact with the wall. There hasn't been any change in that material. And then when you come up, you might want to stand up out of that stretch for a moment and have a little look at this. When you come up, so you're here, and effectively at the moment you've got pretty much the natural curves of your spine, but you're getting a bit of a nice stretch in that lower back. Now when you come up, I want you to really, 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 really tuck the pelvis under as much as you can. So you can see I'm almost there, and if I had the wall behind me, I'd be pushing the base, my lower back, my waistband into the wall by really tucking my pelvis under. My pubic bone is really far in front, and then I'm trying to continue to push each vertebrae into the wall. You'll get to about here probably, and then naturally everything will release. So let's try that together, if you haven't already. So feet are hip width apart. Be comfortable. Don't worry about the head. If the head touches the wall, perfect. If it doesn't, don't worry. Shoulders should be touching the wall. Lower back, your buttocks, your hips should be touching the wall. Take your head away from the wall. Draw your chin down your chest. Like you're drawing a chalk line with your nose down your centre. Let those arms hang forwards. So you fall quite a little bit away from the wall. Get to the point where those trousers or leggings start to move. Don't let them move. Keep it there. I'm strongly pulling my belly button in. I'm letting the arms hang. I'm letting my head hang. Now come back up. Really tuck that pelvis under. Push every single vertebrae slowly into the wall so that your back is now in a straight line. Just as you get to the shoulder blade, just as I get to my shoulder blades, I want to release and come back to a neutral position. So think about the string that I talked about earlier on. When you're in your natural curves, you've got this lovely curving double S shape. When you come up out of this position, you're going to try and straighten out that string, apart from your head. So one more, chin onto the chest, round the back, let the arms fall forwards. Be really relaxed, no tension, just shake the arms, and then coming up, tuck that pelvis under. If you're quite curved in your lower back like I am, this is a lot of effort. Straighten out that string from your tailbone, get it taut along the wall. Just to the point where your shoulders blades get to touch the wall, and then relax. Good job. We're going to take one more of these all the way down to the floor this time. So chest, rounding over, arms hanging. Now allow your trousers, your leggings to slide up the wall. Soften your knees. You could be getting a bit of a hamstring stretch, but I've actually relaxed my knees quite a bit. I'm touching the floor, you might not be touching the floor, you might be here, that's absolutely fine. But now, as you come up, here's where the magic happens. Straighten those legs-ish, don't lock them out, but almost straighten them. Find that, take that pelvic tilt again, straighten out that string. All the way up until you feel the need to release naturally and then come away. Perfect. Okay, hopefully you're able to enjoy that and do that, but if you didn't, don't worry too much. We're going to, try it at another time. It's a really nice stretch out for your back. I'm going to lower my monitors a little bit, and we're going to come down onto the floor, but we're going to take some roll downs freestanding before we do that. So, feet hip width apart. Let's repeat those roll downs. Let's do 3 roll downs fairly continually. Imagine you've got that wall behind your hips. So you're not going to be able to stick your bottom out. You're going to try and hold that pelvis in neutral. So here we go. Chin onto the chest. Holding the pelvis in neutral. Take that first part of the roll down. And then just allow your knees to soften. Notice your pubic bone sliding back through your legs, knees soften, nod the head, shake the head, and then rolling back up. Almost straighten the legs. Get that pelvis into that tucked under position, and then unravel your spine. Feel like you're lengthening out that piece of string. And again, chin onto the chest. Feel and notice where the weight is on your feet. I could just feel my feet rolling to the outside edges. You want your feet nice and evenly weighted if you can, and then rolling back up. That time I kept my knees, my legs a little bit straighter so that I got a bit more of a hamstring stretch. Last one, rolling down. Keep that pelvis tucked under, then allow it to release. And this time we're walking out onto our hands and our toes into the plank. So hands are underneath the shoulders, and take the feet a little bit wider if you can. In fact, take the fronts of your shoulders past your fingertips a little bit, and then lower both knees with control. Perfect. Bring your knees in. So we're on our all fours position. We're going to look at stretching the backs of the legs again, primarily the calves in this one, but coming up from here into our downward dog. So with your toes curled under, lifting your knees off straightening out the legs, pushing your chest back through your arms. Get those sit bones nice and high. Think of making that V shape. Ooh, or an A frame, I think GMB guys call it. And then come forwards, shoulders over your fingertips, and then lower both knees with control. And again, so my feet and my knees are quite wide, almost as wide as my yoga mat. And I'm pushing back again. So stretching, feeling a lovely stretch all at the backs of the legs, and then I'm going to bend one knee at a time and just gently walk the feet in towards each other, keeping the hips nice and high. And every time I bend the knee and push the heel down, I'm getting a little bit more of a stretch, and it feels really nice. Taking the feet back to that wide position again. One last, send those sit bones up towards the ceiling, bring your shoulders over your hands, lower the knees with control. One more of these, we're going to add one more stretch onto it. So lifting the hips up, straightening out the legs, walking the feet in so they're a little bit closer, more hip width apart. And now we're going to bend one elbow and the opposite knee. And as you do that, you might feel like looking under the straight arm side. You might not, but what you will notice, and then swap sides. So take one elbow down towards the floor. You're going to feel a strong stretch on that same side, the straight leg, in the calf. Just bend and relax the other knee. I'm just turning my head slightly, but don't worry about that too much if it doesn't happen for you. Just feels quite natural for me. So 4 of these, really stretching out the calves, and then maybe walk those feet back a little bit. One more in the plank, and lower those knees down with control. Good job. Okay, we are coming to all fours again. So just give your hands a little, do some sea anemones, get those wrists, keep those wrists nice and mobile. Just watch me a moment actually. So we're going to do this 4 times, alternating sides, and then we're going to repeat it again in a slightly different position. This is all about building the stamina in this upper back, having the head in the perfect position, and just bracing in the abdominals. So you're going to lift one arm, you're going to lift the elbow up so it's so you're sort of tucking the inside of your arm to your ribs. Lower the hand but hover it above where it was. Then take it out to the side, keeping the hand flexed, the arm is nice and straight. Lower it to where it was, and then reach it forward, thumb up, and then come back and change hands. Just let me show you completely from the front. So what I'm looking for here is no shifting, no changing in the shoulder girdle, no leaning away from the side that you're working. So it's elbow back, lower and brush. Take it out to the side, lower and brush. Reach the thumb up, reach the arm forwards, lower and change sides. Here we go. So 4 on each side. So staying really stable and still in your body. Lifting the elbow and brush the hand underneath the shoulder. Reach out to the side. Feel and notice you're around your shoulder girdle working. Feel those different muscles switching on. Switch to the other side. Notice the shift in your body weight. Pin the elbow back. Reach the arm out to the side. Fingertips facing forwards, flexing the hand. Reach forwards and lift the arm so it's level with the body ideally. The thumb is up there. That's a specific position for that shoulder to be in. And then we're here. One more set each side. Elbow and slide out. And reach that thumb. And replace. Switch sides. Elbow back. And out to the side. Keeping the neck long. The whole time you're doing this, thinking of lengthening the crown of the head forwards, lengthening the tailbone away in the opposite direction. Brilliant. Just bring your feet and your knees together. We're going to do another 4. I just want you to try this and see how it feels. So feet and knees together, hands are shoulder width apart. Spread your fingers and your thumbs far apart. From here, try and do the elbow back on one side and then the other side without your body moving, and notice how it's really quite tough not to do a big shift. Try the other side. Oh, one side will be worse than the other. Good, okay, so we're just going to add a little counterbalance. So come back to your first arm. Your first arm is going to do the same as what it did before, but the opposite leg is going to slide along the floor and stay nice and straight with your toe on the floor. So now it will be a little bit easier. So lifting elbow and sweeping the arm out to the side and reaching the arm forwards. 4 of these. When you place the hand down, bring the knee, feet and knees together, swap the other leg out behind you, keeping the body still. Elbow and out to the side. Notice what's going on in the shoulder. Hands down underneath your shoulders, 1 more each side. Swap the legs, set the legs first. Elbow. Notice what's going on in your torso. No twisting, no leaning. Hands down, feet and knees together. So that narrow base makes quite a big difference. Arm out to the side. Thumb up and relax. Good job. Excellent. Okay, we are coming on to bringing our legs in front. Working the backs of the arms now, the back line of the body. This is tough. Triceps, we all hate them. Good muscles to have though. Again, the backs of our bodies just get a little bit too neglected really, so that's why we need to work these. So taking your hands quite away behind you, having your feet and knees hip width apart. Most importantly is the fingertips facing forward, so facing towards your hips. And then the next really important bit is don't be here, don't be collapsed and rounded in the shoulders. Lift your chest. Imagine from the side you've created a nice L shape or a real angle. There's no curves going on in this one. So open up the front of the chest. So easy peasy version is just bend the arms, taking those elbows back and then fully straighten them. My arms are shaking already at the thought of this. Because it's only the second time I've done it today, but it's tough, as I said. So this is the easy peasy version. If you want to challenge yourself a little bit more, push down through those feet, lift the hips up, not too high, and then same thing, bending the arms, straightening the arms. The hips lower because I'm bending my arms. It's not that I'm taking my hips up and down, that's coming up in a moment. Bending the arms, straightening the arms, trying to keep broad across the collarbone, working the back line of the body quite hard. At least 10 of these, whichever one you're doing. If you're finding the hips up too much, drop the hips down. Do 3, hips down. Notice how it's relatively easy. Take the hips up. Do another 3 with the hips up. Only 3. Whoa. 1 more set of each. Elbows. Bending backwards, stay broad across that collarbone, hips up if you can. Here we go. Woo. Fully straightening those arms, hand drop down. Give yourself a little hug. We're going to come back to this lovely resting, hugging position in a moment, thinking about the shape of your back as it is. But we've got 1 more exercise here. So this time we're taking the arms back to behind us. But now fingertips are facing outwards, facing sideways, perpendicular to your spine. Very big word. You will forget about your wrists or your triceps for a moment because this is quite a tough exercise in itself. So we're just lifting the bridge, lifting the hips up into the bridge here. Pushing down through both feet, lifting up and lowering. Keeping that collarbone nice and open, firing up the glutes, firing up the back line of the body. Keeping the collarbone open, as I said, Keep the chest leaning back a little bit. Don't be hit down here. Open up. Just looking forwards. Neck should be quite relaxed. You might just want to look up a little bit more to where the ceiling and the wall meet. Try and push down through the feet. Try and fire up the buttocks in order to lift the hips up. Good. If you want to work a little bit harder, if you're happy with that level, stay there but do a few more. If you want to work a little bit harder, let's lift one leg at a time into a knee fold. The goal is to keep the hips up. The foot that stays on the floor is the one that's doing the work. Feel the back line of your body screaming out a little bit. We really don't do these movements very often. It's good to do. Try and lift out of that, lift out of the shoulders, lift up out of the floor. Good, let's have 4 more. 4, 3, 2, and 1. And calm down. Again, just give yourself a little hug here. Ooh, wrap your arms around your legs a little bit. Coming into our perfect rolling like a ball position, almost. I'm just taking a moment to allow my spine to really round out. So coming back to thinking about the shape of the spine, the shape of the back line of the body, or the spine basically. So from the crown of your head to your sacrum, we now want to create a nice curve. So I'm going to have my hands underneath the backs of my knees. I'm going to really tuck that pelvis under. So that's equivalent for me, the same as what we did when we were doing the roll down and up against the wall. That same amount of pelvic tilt. I'm just going to have my toes just touching the floor, elbows are lifted, everything feels nice and rounded. The shape of my spine does not change at all. That's what we want for rolling like a ball. This angle doesn't change. This angle doesn't change. It should feel like quite a nice massage on your spine. If you're not liking having the hands at the back of the head, place the hands on the floor. Try not to let your back flatten out when you get down there, because then you have to use the momentum of the legs to get you back up. We want to try and fix this shape. So if you're feeling quite comfortable with it, maybe hold the hands freely so you're not actually hanging onto the legs. Keep all these angles the same. Brilliant. Okay, same thing, shape of the spine. It's like a rocking horse. You're going to take the hands to the back of the knees again. We're going to roll all the way down, but I'm staying really rounded. I'm in that curve, and I've let my feet just dangle. I'm going to let my thighs, my knees extend away from me, and I'm going to straighten my arms. My proportions work quite well with this. I've got quite a long body, so it works for me. If you've got a shorter body than me or longer legs or whatever, you might have to have your arms slightly bent. I know you probably can't see that very well, but this is me with my arms slightly bent. It doesn't matter as long as all of these angles stay the same. And then we're into rocking horse abdominals. I'm not trying to come up, I'm trying to just stay in almost like a boat shape. Woo, and it's tough. Then I'm going to hug one knee in, really pulling that knee towards my shoulder. Extend the other leg along the floor. Keep it both feet at the same height. I'm hanging on to this knee for dear life, and it's what's keeping my upper back nice and rounded. My lower back, my pelvis is still tucked under. I'm still drawing that belly button in. Swap legs. There was no change in the shape of my spine when I swapped my legs. I'm hanging on to this knee, using that to help me stay nice and upright, especially with the head. If the head is back here, that's going to be awful on the neck. Try and almost tuck your chin onto your knee. Really pull that knee in. So you're compressing in the hip on this bent leg side, and it's helping you to stay up. Let's switch for 6. Here we go. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, good job. Hands are behind the knees. Let those feet drop and dangle. 6 rocks. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. One more set. Here we go. 6, 5, 4, 3. Think about the shape of your back. It isn't changing in either exercise. This is strong work on the abdominal wall at the front. Because you're holding that really strong curve and that pelvic tilt. I have no idea how many of these I've done. And have a little relax. Roll the head from side to side. Hug those knees in. Good job. We are sitting up to lie on our sides. So lying on your sides in a nice straight line. I'm going to come forwards a little bit actually. In a nice straight line, but with your underneath leg forward, so that the knee is opposite your hip and the leg is at a right angle. And that's just to keep you nice and stable. Make sure your waist is lifted so you're not collapsed on that underneath side. Lengthen the top leg away, in line with your spine. Rest that head down. Keep this shoulder down, pop your hand on your hip. We're going to flex that top foot. You're going to sweep it forwards, going as far as you can, and give yourself, do a little pulse. Think of the line, the stretch from your heel all the way up the back of that leg into your buttock, into the top of your hamstrings, but without any change in your lower back. Point the foot, sweep the leg back. This is my straight line where I am now. So if I was standing, this is where this leg would be. Now take it, oopsie, cramp in the foot. Take it back past your straight line. Open up the front of the hip. Squeeze your buttock at the back. Use this spare hand to notice that there's no change in that pelvis. I've actually put the back of my hand in my lower back so that I can feel whether there's any change. Sweep the leg forwards, 2 pulses. Point the foot, sweep back, and it's just a big squeeze to go back and sweep forwards. Really keep that pelvis still. If you let your pelvis tuck under and you collapse, you're just cheating. And if you let that lower back overarch when you go back, again, you're allowing the pelvis to change its position without switching on and activating the right muscles. 1 more. Flexing forwards, 2 pulses, sweeping back, holding that there. And then here, circling, a small football-sized circle. A child's football size. I'm just brushing the floor. The top of the circle is pretty much level with my other hip. 5 or so in each direction. Make sure it's behind your straight line, not in that straight line, and definitely not forwards of it. So again, firing up the back line of the body, focusing on those glutes. You might just give that a little bit of a tap. I don't think it needs a stretch. And then let's swap to the other side. Coming up through our nice Z sit. So bend the underneath leg forwards. This should be relatively comfortable, even if your hips you don't like the side lying position. And if you do need to, just roll up your mat or have a small cushion or pillow underneath there. Turn that palm up of that underneath arm. And then here we go. So lifting the leg level with the floor, level with the top hip, parallel to the floor I should say. Flex the foot, pulses forwards. So my hamstrings aren't so tight or aren't so sore on this side. So my leg is going a little bit further. Just notice for yourself. This side feels any different. Might be the other way around. Try not to let that leg bend. Try and keep it at the same height. Are you truly keeping your pelvis still? Or is there a little round out of that lower back when you sweep that leg forwards? Are you arching? Are the ribs flaring when you take the leg back? Mine were then. Everything in your torso should be remaining the same. Brilliant. Last one. Holding the leg back and out behind you and taking those circles. I find this harder to brush the floor on this side. Maybe I'm a little bit tighter in the hip flexors. Keeping the legs straight, about 5 in each direction. Keeping the top shoulder down. Pelvis staying still. Wonderful, good job. Okay. Last couple of things. We're coming back to our Y, W, T and L. Building a stamina in the muscles at the back of the neck. Reaching the arms forwards into a Y, lying on your tummy. Get your rib cage connected to your hips, push your pubic bone into the mat a little bit. Check where the hip bones are, lengthen the legs away. Legs can just be comfortably hip width apart, slightly turned out if that works for you. Lift the back of the head and neck so you're nice and long. And then let's lift those arms up off the floor. So your insides of your elbows, your biceps are level with your ears. Try not to lift the head up any higher because that will be equivalent to poking your head forwards, holding it there for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bending those elbows. Try and tip your elbows towards the floor. Open out your hands a little bit. Remember, this is your capital W, different to the capital L's, back to back. Draw those elbows down towards the floor. You might just want to lift your back up a little bit more. In fact, I have lifted my back up a little bit more so that I'm on my bottom floating ribs. Open your arms out to the side. Just lower your head again. Tiny bit lower. Turn your head from side to side and look at where your arms are when they're parallel to the floor. Head forwards. Now lift those arms up. Much, 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 much higher. The whole long arm. Everything is shaking for me a little bit. Keep the head in line with the rest of your spine, holding it there. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lower those arms. Now just tuck the elbows in. This is the one I find the hardest actually. Tuck the elbows into your side seam. Try not to have your fingertips touching the floor. Keep the wrists straight. Drop those elbows down a little bit. Lower the hands so you're making a capital L or a right angle with both arms. Open up that collarbone. This is strong. Let's hold it. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and little collapse. Good job. Hands on top of hands. Make sure you haven't got any sticky out big diamond rings getting in the way, ladies. Put your forehead, so I've got fingers on top of fingers actually. Rest your forehead on top of those fingers. That should feel quite comfortable. Make sure the shoulders are nice and relaxed. And then just turn your head fully to one side and let it relax. If you're comfortable here, if you'd like to, just move your hands out of the way so that your head is resting fully on its side but on the floor. If that's not comfortable for you, stay with the hands one on top of each other. If you want more height, get your hands more overlapped so you're up a little bit higher. Make sure you're relaxing in your shoulders. Let's come back to the middle. So I'm fingers on top of fingers here. My nose is just sticking into the floor. And then turn to the other side. Start with your hands in the same position. Try and really relax in the neck and then let those hands move away. If you want to, you don't have to. If it doesn't feel right for you, don't do it. But hopefully that will work. Just breathe and relax. We've done a lot of work on the back of the neck and the shoulders today. A lot of endurance work, which is quite important. Coming back to the centre. Well done. Hands are underneath your shoulders. Bring your feet and knees nice and parallel.
underneath your shoulders with your elbows sticking up like a grasshopper. Really tighten up, draw your belly button in nice and tight, push down on those hands. I've curled my toes under, but I don't need my toes, I just need to push down on my hands and my knees and reverse press up. Beautiful straight line in those hips, well done. Take the hips all the way back to the heels, open up the knees wide, big toes together, stretch those arms away and just have a slightly mad sway from side to side, maybe turning the head, maybe not. Definitely breathing, relaxing. Brilliant. And then itsy bitsy spine and the hands along the floor. Tuck the pelvis under, unravel your spine. Come up to a nice kneeling position if you can, or a seated position. And well done. That was the back line of the body in Pilates Live at 5. Hope to see you next week. Thank you for joining me.